Hello, I'm Nina Lockwood. I'm the founder and chief exec of Intuitive Talent Solutions, a boutique executive search organisation focused on supporting our clients in the UK transport sector with their senior and most business critical roles. You are very welcome to this episode of our Intuitive Insights podcast, where I am joined by Jeremy Westlake, Chief Executive of Network Rail. Jeremy stepped into the position last October, big shoes to fill, and is doing a sterling job. He is very open, very honest, and in my view, very authentic during this conversation. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I really did. And I am pretty confident that you're going to enjoy it too. I appreciate you being here. Thanks for joining me. Jeremy Westlake, Chief Exec of Network Rail. A very, very warm welcome, quite literally, because it's probably one of the hottest days of the year when we're recording this. But you, fortunately, are in the air-conditioned offices of Waterloo. And I'm up in sunny Lancashire. So it is a very warm welcome to the Intuitive Insights podcast. I am delighted that you have been able to make some time in your diary to join me.
Thank you very much, Nina. It's great to be here. And yeah, today I'm in a nice office and nice aircon. But yesterday I was down in the Severn Tunnel.
Oh, my word.
Looking at work going on in the middle of a heat wave.
Right.
And I tell you, very different for many of our people. So yeah, I'm
Yes.
one today.
Gosh, absolutely. And the high vis and the hard hats that go with that presumably don't help the temperature either, but obviously a necessary evil. But thank you for joining us. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. I'm curious to know more about you, more about your career. And what we know from the feedback we get from our audience on this podcast is that they will enjoy getting to know the person behind the job title. So without further ado, let's crack on. I'd like to take you back a few years now to the beginning of your career. And I'd love you to talk me through where you went, where you started, what decisions you made and why, what choices you've made. And I'm curious to know whether there was a plan. Was there a career plan? Were you ambitious in a certain way to get to a certain point? Or has it evolved organically as we've gone along? So over to you. Tell me about your career story.
Oh, my career. Well, let's start with the very beginning. So I started off in London working in accounting and consulting. And that's where it all started. And then I went to join a client, and that also involved, I was overseas by then. So I was working in France. You'll see some links in a minute to where I ended up in rail later.
Yeah.
So I started off in France. My French was really good. So that was a useful experience, very different culture to work in. And from that, I then joined a client, and then I worked around in Italy, another quite different culture. I went to Istanbul, spent a couple of years in Istanbul,
Right.
and then started working around the Middle East, even more different cultures.
Yes, absolutely.
And then I came back to the UK and joined Rolls-Royce. And my early career was very much in manufacturing. And in Rolls-Royce, I started off in manufacturing and then supply chain development and doing business development. And because I'd had all of that cultural experience, they put me on one of my best jobs ever, which was to go around the world finding new partners to do business with.
Oh, well, okay.
And, from China, Russia, South America, India, and that was just fantastic to be able to explore the world, as I was doing anyway with my own career. So I'd moved around. I'd ended up back in the UK. Rolls-Royce was a wonderful organization. I think if you're in a great organization that wants to lean into your development, and the railway's really good at that, then that's a wonderful place to be. And they sent me off to Cambridge University to do manufacturing, which was unusual, if you like, if you come in with a background that started in finance. So my love and passion for engineering and innovation really stemmed from my days at Rolls-Royce.
Yeah.
From that, I also went over to work in the US for 3 years. So having an experience of quite a different business culture there,
Mm,
very pacey, very agile, very dynamic.
mm,
And, that's something that's been with me all the time is about wanting to make better things happen.
yeah.
Uh, and from that, back to the UK for a while. And then I was offered a great job in Paris to join Alstom. And that was really my move out of aviation. And
Yeah.
aviation taught me a lot, certainly about criticality of safety, asset reliability, all of the things that I think are really important, certainly in this job.
Yeah.
Um, and so I went out to Paris, and that was looking globally at rail projects around the world
Mm,
as in a CFO role, and learning about rolling stock, signaling systems, turnkey projects.
mm,
So it was a great expose to rail and rail systems and how you design them, how you build them, how you operate them. And from there, I got the offer to come and work for Network Rail, where I was doing a CFO role, but a broad role covering
mm,
lots of things like property development, commercial, some big innovation projects, private finance, how you get that in the railway.
mm.
So that's kind of in a nutshell
Yeah.
my career journey. You did ask, was it a plan?
Yeah.
How could you plan for that?
I'm not quite sure. I
Uh,
don't know. I think I certainly never had a plan myself, but I have met people and I'm fascinated by people who do have a very kind of very clear plan. But I always have a bit of a concern that if you have such a clear plan that you might miss out on the opportunities that might feel a bit left field.
Yeah, in fact, there was the former chief exec of Rolls-Royce, John Rose, used to talk about serendipity,
Yeah.
career serendipity, just being in the right place at the right time and being willing to take on an opportunity or a challenge. And I think that's something that people have seen that I can do.
Yes.
If there's a void to be filled, a vacuum that somebody needs to step into. I love those kind of opportunities because you get freedom and there's space to make change. So serendipity in your career, rather than being too pointed on one career journey, one career outcome,
Yeah.
I think you could become over wedded, and
Mm,
you can't control what comes at you in your life in terms of opportunities or even problems. And we sometimes
mm,
will have problems in our career. So let's not
mm,
just think about that. You've got to balance a lot of things in your career,
mm.
but actually being bold enough to take opportunities when they present themselves. I think that's something that's really important
Yeah.
in making
I
the best of your career opportunity.
completely agree. Absolutely, totally agree. It occurs to me as well as you were talking about decisions that we might have made when I mean, I left school in 1985. So a career then would look quite different to a career now because the world has changed. The world of business has changed. The world, in terms of our focus, what's important now. We're talking more and more about things that I know are important to you around social value, around how we support the economy with what we do. There's much more of that now than there was, certainly in my experience. I'm not going to add up how many years ago that was, but at the beginning of my career, I wouldn't have been able to plan forward in terms of what the world looks like now.
Well, I think a couple of things. One is, as a railway, we have what one of my colleagues described as built-in purpose.
Yes.
You know what you're there to do,
Yeah.
and the railway purpose is now being writ quite broadly, quite large. So you know that there are many things that the railway needs to do. Obviously, customers and
Mm,
freight growth and providing a wonderful experience for people, enabling people to live their lives. And then on top of that, you've got to deal with some challenges like climate change. You want to think about the environment and
mm,
sustainability.
exactly.
So I think the railway is a wonderful place to be because it gives you so many opportunities to make a difference.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
there are people in my career who've really helped me focus on how do you make a difference?
Yeah.
What can you make a difference to? How do you take people with you on that journey? So that's I think something
Mm.
wonderful. We have built-in purpose.
Yeah, I love that.
The other thing, I think it's the industry in my early career, certainly people were looking at climbing a corporate ladder
Mm.
within a single entity.
Yes.
And
Job for
I
life.
think
Yeah.
now people are much more uh, desiring, wanting to move around and gain different experiences. And I developed a career strategy presentation that I've given a few times. In fact, it was even used by the Institute of Mechanical Engineers to
Right.
show how it works, and that I
Yeah.
was proud that they were using
I bet you
my
were.
material.
Yeah.
How you can move around, not just thinking about how you move up. How do you move around? How do you gain experience?
Mm.
And how do you round yourself out? And so that as you become more senior, you've got the skills
Mm.
to be able to do the next level up because you understand what's required at the supporting layers.
Exactly. Yeah. And one of the things I know you and I talked about off camera is that people, if we mention your name, they're more likely to associate you with a numbers role, with the CFO role. But you've talked us through your career story. There's a lot in there that obviously for everybody, whether they've got a job title that's got finance in it or not, the numbers matter. What I'm really been encouraged by from things I've heard from you recently is that you have got that revenue growth focus about the growth focus rather than the how do we just keep reducing costs. So that's a real positive that I'd kind of love to hear a little bit more about your philosophy on that. Before we do that, so complete contradiction to what I've just said, right back at the beginning of your career when you went into accountancy and consulting, why did you choose that? Why was that the first kind of obvious career choice for you to go into?
I wanted a portable qualification. I could see already that having a recognized skill would enable me to move around, and that proved to be true.
Mm,
So, yeah, it's
mm,
useful to get a grounding in a professional qualification, and it doesn't matter what it is,
yeah,
because that can just facilitate people to see what you can do for them. The risk is you end up being badged uh,
yeah,
by one particular professional route or pathway.
mm,
And if that's not what you want, if you want to be a generalist, uh, or you want to transfer into different areas, don't be afraid to make that clear because the
yeah,
system does want to pigeonhole you if you're not careful.
yeah. The other thing that I found fascinating that I didn't know about you, so I knew you'd spent time in France, um, but Italy, Istanbul, Middle East, China, Russia, USA, all of the culture that you have experienced, not only kind of in the different organizations that you were either working with or for, but the clients that you will have been engaging with as well in your business development role.
Yeah.
So many different cultures from an organization perspective, but also sitting under the culture of the country that you were working in. When you reflect back on that, has any of that shaped how you behave now in terms of your leadership style? What did you learn? What shaped you from that global experience?
That no one organization, what no one national culture has all the answers, and you
Yeah,
can bring lots of ideas to the table. And the more you do, the more open you are to ideas that can come from anywhere. I think you get to better outcomes, better solutions.
yeah,
And that's the thing. And people, if they're able to bring their whole selves to work and
mhm,
to show their contribution, wow, what a wonderful thing when you get all of these different ideas and different ways of thinking. So I speak French very well. I speak Italian,
mm,
uh, and sometimes I play a little trick on myself, which is I think about something I'm doing in a different language
okay,
because that culture from that language makes you think differently, and you come out with uh, different solutions. It's quite
yes.
an interesting mind game you can
Oh,
play.
yeah, I like that. I like that.
And so many people have second languages.
Yeah,
It's astonishing in the world how many people have second
mm,
languages, and even in the UK now, lots
mm,
of people. can do that. So there's a little mind trick you can play.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I don't, unfortunately, I don't have a second language, and it is still a regret, although there's plenty of time to do it. Perhaps it's one of the things that I'll do once I eventually put my feet up and retire. But my daughter spent some time in Amsterdam. She did a year study in Amsterdam, and she now has a Dutch partner, and so she has been learning to speak Dutch. And I'm really envious of that. I think when you
Have
live
you seen
somewhere as well.
have you seen a change in her because of her immersion in the Dutch culture?
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, she's currently immersing herself in different cultures because she's off on her travels and across Sri Lanka and India. And she did a trek up the Himalayas a couple of weeks ago. And they've now literally just yesterday arrived in Borneo via Kuala Lumpur. So there's lots of immersion in different cultures
What
happening
an experience.
for Neve Lockwood at the minute. But definitely a change, Jeremy. I think when you live and you work somewhere, Neve was working and studying in Amsterdam, that culture very much has changed her outlook on life. I think the Dutch culture is much more laid back than the British culture. There's less rushing around. There's more spending time thinking and chatting and, just kind of generally a bit more engaging, maybe.
Yeah, well,
Certainly seeing it.
let's say that if maybe you don't have that opportunity to have traveled or lived in different cultures,
Mm,
even different company cultures can
yeah.
teach you a lot about how organizations think, and that can be very culturally enriching as well.
Mm,
If you're in a very customer focused business, the way you think is all about, how you delight your customers, because that's actually how you drive revenue.
mm,
You make your product and your service more attractive to people. Either you're solving a problem for them or you're enabling them in some way. So, getting a good cultural affinity with the customer, I think is
mm,
really interesting. And for what it's worth, this will largely be listened to by people in the rail network.
mm.
Um, Out and see and feel what your customers are feeling. I really love traveling on the trains, and I do a lot, as you can imagine, and talking to
Absolutely. Yeah.
passengers about what they're doing, what this is enabling. And honestly, it's quite inspiring to think that's what we're about.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Similarly, if you've got a high performance culture organization, so Rolls-Royce was one that focused very much on
Mm,
high performance. And how do you get that culture that everybody's supporting each other to be as good as they can be?
mm,
And having, I think, the way that we support each other and challenge each other in a constructive way
mm.
so that we get to those better outcomes, that teamwork is special when you get it. And
Mm,
there have been people in my career who really focused on that, and I've learned from that about how to get teams of people working really well together.
mm.
And that could be uh, cross company as well. So a lot of what we do is about collaboration in the rail industry,
Yeah.
which is coming back together. But
Mm.
we're bringing back together a lot of different cultures and a lot of different
Absolutely. Yeah.
organizations, and you know, people going through that change that can feel a bit uncomfortable
Yeah.
as
Absolutely,
well.
it can. Yeah.
People think, well, what does this mean for my job? Um, Back to what we were saying earlier, don't be too wedded to a career path that you've
Mm.
defined for yourself in an environment that's changing around you, and lean into that change and see what you can bring, how
Yeah.
you make a difference, and people will notice that. And
Absolutely.
the ambiguity, and sometimes that can be something that really can worry you about,
Mm.
well, what does this mean for my job in a year or 2 years time? Trust that it will work out, because it does.
Mm.
Look
Do you
around,
know,
it does.
this was something that I definitely wanted to cover in our conversation today. Um, just in relation to advice for people who are in the industry, who want to remain in the industry and are committed to it and are passionate about that built-in purpose that we have in rail. In terms of practical advice, Jeremy, when you say lean into things, kind of lean into that change, lean into the transformation, what would that look like for an individual who is at any stage of their career, I guess, but who is looking ahead, wants to add some value, wants to be part of the change, the transformation? What would be some
Yeah.
practical things that you could suggest that they would do?
Look for the learning opportunities,
Yeah.
first of all. Um, you will hear people talking about new ways of doing things, ways that they think work better. This is a wonderful opportunity to learn. So, as you're going through this, remember it's not just a change process, it's a learning opportunity,
Mm.
and that will shape you. And so, one of the things I do is I journal.
Yes.
This is an old fashioned habit. People don't do it so much anymore.
Mm.
Log your learnings.
Yeah.
There was a wonderful piece of work done by an MIT professor called Donald Schoen, and I wouldn't recommend the book, but it's
Mhm.
about how professionals
Yeah.
uh, grow themselves
Okay.
and actually logging your learnings and reflections
Yeah.
rather than just assuming that somehow they're going to absorb. These are complex things. Complex things are sometimes better written down
Mm.
so that you can revisit them. The, the thing is, after a while, you'll realize, oh yeah, I've changed. I've internalized something. I'm thinking differently, and that
Mm.
shows your growth to you as
Yeah.
much as any. Quite often,
Mm.
it's hard for people to see how much they're changing themselves.
Mm.
So that's the one thing I'd actually say. It's a great opportunity. Lean into it,
Yeah.
learn from it, log it,
Yeah.
and you will be able to see just how far you're moving forward. And that's I think
Mm.
positive reinforcement.
Yeah.
And obviously be uh, open to new things when they
Mm.
come your way.
Mm.
Some young people I have working in my office at the moment, one in particular, has done fabulous things, just trying new things, not trying to climb the greasy pole as quickly as possible, but to
Yeah.
really route themselves out in customer roles, station management roles, operations roles, managing big teams of signalers.
Mm.
This is from a person who's also a qualified lawyer and a qualified accountant.
Mm.
And you get, wow, you know,
Yeah.
look at
Yeah.
that.
I love
Now, of
that.
course,
That
sometimes
advice.
you do want a strong profession based pathway if that's what you want to be.
Mm.
So it depends on where you want to go.
Yeah.
So looking at the change that's going on, think clearly about where you really want to end up, and
Yeah.
the industry is going to give people massive opportunities. Not
Mm.
least because if you look at the demographic of the industry, lots of people will be leaving,
Mm.
and that makes space for people to develop. So often when you go through uh, this kind of change program of bringing lots of businesses together, everybody starts to worry about their job.
Mm.
But just take a step back and look at the big picture.
Mm.
Uh, I think it was the uh, NSAR, actually, National Skills Academy for Rail, did a study on just how many uh, new types of jobs are going to happen and how many people naturally leave the industry
Mm.
over time. There's going to be so many opportunities out there. Be
Absolutely.
open-minded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that advice. I do journal myself, but there's a theme that's been coming up. There's two things kind of I want to play back to you. One is to just get that advice and take it a little bit further. Do you with journaling? So there's the theme is that when do we have time to sit and reflect? I had a brilliant conversation yesterday with Elle Elliott, who's the people and culture director at Transport for Wales. Elle is doing a brilliant job down there. We were talking yesterday. She was updating me on some of the stuff that they're doing, and I was saying to her, "You've done all this in 12 months. This is amazing." And she said to me, "But we don't have time to reflect." So actually, that conversation I had with her yesterday was her first opportunity, really, to sit. Oh God, yeah, we have. We've done a lot. When do you have that time? You've got a big job. You have a really big job. When do you make the time to sit down and do that reflection and do your journaling? Just same time every day? Or do you carry your book around with you? Or do you do it in a book? Or is it on your phone? Or
No, I use an app.
oh, okay.
Anybody wants to look at it, it's called Day One,
Right.
cheap, and it gives you the opportunity then to organize them by, a taxonomy, really. You can set them up. I organize mine by year, and then I find sub themes. And so that's the mechanism.
Okay.
The time of day, I would say it can happen anytime when I've just something I want to log very quickly,
Okay.
and I'll just put it in, just a little title, something to reflect on.
Yeah.
And early in the morning is a really good time. That first hour when your head's clearer
Yeah.
is a great time to just do some reflection.
Mm.
I tend to log more ideas in the evening and develop more thoughts in the morning.
Okay. That's really interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
The other theme that's been coming up a lot in my conversations with people in the industry, in terms of, to your point around being open to things, looking for learning opportunities, visibility, how to be visible, how to make yourself known in an industry where there are a huge number of talented people, but there are, I know, because I kind of make it my business to go and root people out who are sitting in darker corners to say, "What are you doing there?" What
Yeah.
the people who it doesn't come naturally to talk about their career, to talk about their achievements, et cetera. What how do they get themselves visible? How do they make sure that the people who need to know who they are and what they're doing know who they are and what they're doing?
That's a really interesting
Yeah.
question. I've never really thought about
Right.
that, but I try and reflect for a second.
Yeah.
One is to move outside of your normal circle.
Okay. Yeah.
So the industry is amazing for the number of events and different forums that it holds.
Mhm.
And get involved. There are so many, even, self-starting networks that exist. Um, and I think get in and contribute in areas outside of your day job. If you're in your day job,
Yeah.
you're probably interacting with quite a small number of people. So if you want to grow more broadly, make sure that other people can see you.
Yeah.
And so involve yourself elsewhere and bring something to that table. People will spot you
Mm.
and they'll say, I like that. I'd like that person to work with me, or I've seen an opportunity. I'll share with that person. And you find that opportunities come to you rather than you having to chase them.
Mm.
Um, I would say most of my career has just been about people saying to me, "Have you thought about this? We think you'd be good at it."
Yeah.
And then they run a process, you
Mm.
go through the process, etc. But it starts by people known to knock on your door. Now,
Yes.
in the current world, lots of ways to go out and get, find new things. But if you look at, there was an article the other day I was reading about AI is now being used to prepare people's CVs for jobs. People do that.
Yeah.
And then the AI is doing the candidate filtering. And so how do you bring the person back
Mhm.
into that process? And AI is really good. I love using it myself, but
Yeah.
um, make it more personal, grow your network,
Yes.
and that way you will get that. Would you like to have a chat about X conversation?
Yeah.
That is the other thing I say in my managing your career
Mm.
presentation is
Mm.
that is not a chat. That is a stage one interview that you may not have recognized.
Agreed. Yeah.
When people want to chat to you about a job,
Yeah.
they're testing you, but they're also testing you. They think you've got something. They
Yeah.
want to know about you. So
Yeah.
there you go. Go out, broaden your network, broaden your visibility.
I love that advice. I really love that advice. I think going out and networking for many people, that's a kind of like big deep breath because a lot of people don't find it comfortable to do that. And I think in a world where obviously 6 years ago we were all told we couldn't go out and actually be in the real world and in real life with people, there's been a process to get people back to industry events. But there are, to your point, there are some brilliant events that people can go to, really fantastic networking events. So I would second that. I would say get yourselves out there and start kind of talking to people, having conversations. kind of ties
And
into,
I
sorry.
can be virtual as well. It doesn't have to be face to face. I think face to face is really good.
Yeah,
Virtual can work as well. The
yeah,
world's changed. A lot of people in earlier stages in their career are much more comfortable with that, about building contacts and relationships virtually. So I'm not
yes,
discounting.
yeah.
Uh, I just think it can be more fun to be in person. Personally, I
I
like it.
agree. I
I, I
agree.
get a lot of
Virtual is the second best.
I get a lot of energy from other people, a lot of ideas
Yeah,
from meeting other
yeah,
people.
yeah.
So
Me too. So to kind of carry on this theme in terms of advice for people in their railway careers or in any career actually, but obviously we're particularly passionate about the railway. What sort of leadership do you think the railway needs now that maybe it didn't need 10 years ago? How has that changed and how do you predict it's going to continue to change? What leadership skills do we need?
I think that the environment that one operates in has a huge impact on how people behave.
Mm,
10 years ago, we were in quite contractual relationships,
yes.
and there's a skill to managing constructively in a contractual relationship. So 10 years ago, that was the model. And I think when COVID happened, the model started to change quite rapidly
Mm,
when, what risk profile people were actually taking on, that changed dramatically in the
mm,
industry. And therefore, uh, it became easier to start talking about truer collaboration rather than the artificial barriers that corporate structures put between people.
mm,
So I think we can be more boundaryless now than
yeah.
it was possible to be 10 years ago.
Mm,
And the amazing thing is how fast that change is happening. And so now it's possible to think and operate one railway,
mm,
where in the past you probably had to think and operate, what does my shareholder want?
yeah.
Now, if you get it right, if it's customer, revenue growth, um, efficiency, in theory, those align, but it's very easy to get different incentives, and people will operate rationally within the system that's set up. So there's a great opportunity here with rail reform to get people to think and operate as one.
Yes.
And the GBR structure will enable that.
Yeah.
And that can go wider even with the industry. There's this higher purpose, this built-in purpose that we've got,
Mm,
much easier to achieve now. So I think a lot of the skills are to be more boundaryless in how you
yes.
think about
Okay.
what
Yeah.
you're trying to do. And, knock on doors, talk to people who can unlock things that in the past it would have been difficult to do.
Mm,
And it's really happening. I'm seeing a much more agile railway.
yeah.
And that's fantastic. One of the frustrations for people is how slow and difficult it can be to make change in the railway.
Yeah.
Sometimes for good reason, caution around anything that has a safety impact, for example.
Mm,
Lots of other things, we innovate quite well. Uh, we experiment quite well, but we don't deploy that well
mm,
because often the mechanisms for deployment were very contractual and quite difficult.
mm,
Totally go away. But it should be much easier
mm,
where the infrastructure manager, the train operator are under one umbrella
mm,
organization,
mm.
and they can talk about outcomes for that one railway
Yes.
system.
Yeah.
That's going to be easier. You're still going to have to deal with, your Roscoes, your technology providers,
Mm,
in those ways. So those skills are still really important. A lot of
yeah.
the skills we learned 10 years ago are still really important, but now we've got the opportunity, I think, to
Mm,
boundaries.
yeah. And just some feedback from me from a relative from an outside perspective. I can definitely support everything you've just said in terms of those relationships. I'm seeing as well as hearing some really positive feedback about how people in the operating community are genuinely feeling that have got a much better, more collaborative relationship with their network rail, with their infrastructure colleagues. So there's lots of lovely anecdotal stories coming out in conversations that I'm having with organisations that we work with. So
I
it's
mean,
happening. There's green shoots. It's
these are
all
some of the
good.
these are some of the things I actually logged down for myself.
Yeah.
about what have I seen that I don't think would have been so easy to do
Yeah.
um, just a few years ago, actually. And
Yeah.
when I was out yesterday in Cardiff, we were talking about work we were planning to do on the bank holiday weekend.
Mm.
And, just talking with train operators, they went, well, that's a big weekend, Maybank holiday, and especially if it's going to be nice weather, and wasn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Big opportunity. So we moved the work. We're not doing it. We didn't do it
Mm.
last weekend. We're doing it next weekend.
Right.
2.5 million pounds. I mean, that's great.
Yeah.
So there's an example,
Yeah. Yeah.
Sizewell C. I've talked about this example before, but we needed a freight path to move materials by rail to create this new nuclear power station.
Yeah.
Already that would go through lots of industry processes, and actually heads just came together and said, look, this needs to happen. This
Mm.
is the outcome. And so how do we make it happen rather than going through too many iterations? And the time to do that compressed so significantly that they very quickly got to a new train path when they
Mm.
could run, how you would move other trains around it so that it could actually run.
Yes.
Some really brilliant examples of
Yeah.
just people more practical and getting things done. And this agility that I
Mm.
think we can get in the system,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
exciting.
And do you know what else as well? That it definitely occurs to me. I agree with everything you've said there, but also it brings an extra level of enjoyment for people doing their jobs because they're still difficult jobs, they're still complex jobs, but it makes it easier when all parties are on the same sheet. So
Yeah.
another, terms of job satisfaction and enjoying going to work on a day, it's definitely I'm seeing some really positive, things happening on the network.
And be proud of what you do. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah,
uh,
absolutely.
I like to start some of my bigger meetings with what successes have we had? What are we proud of?
Yeah,
Every day, the railway brings you a challenge, I can tell you.
exactly. Yeah. And
And
it's easy to focus on that, isn't it? And just kind of, right, and the next thing. So we've done that, and the next thing, and the next thing. But that reflection, which is obviously we've talked about this a number of times just in this conversation, the importance to just have the ability to step back and say, so what went well today?
yeah, well, you're 4 times more likely to remember something that went wrong
Yeah.
than you are something that went right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you make the time to just step back, it can feel like a week full of Wednesdays.
Yes, absolutely. So I've got a couple more questions to ask. I think we've got about 5 minutes left to roll in our conversation. And we have used the culture word a few times so far in this discussion. And I want to just revisit it briefly, if we may. And I think you may well have answered it to a great extent, but I'm going to ask you anyway, because it's something that I am genuinely really curious about. If you could change one cultural behaviour across the industry overnight, just change it, what would it be?
No more not invented here.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Because
Yeah.
we all, we can learn to understand people's experiences. I've been very big, for example, on learning from lessons.
Mm,
And so whether it is in the capital delivery space where we've got a learning library now, which is open to the supply chain.
mm,
So open to anybody who wants to look at it that we're doing business with. You can see how to build this, where we got it right, what we learnt from it.
mm.
And that lessons learned library is really valuable.
Yeah.
So not invented here says, I know I'm better. And one of my former bosses, and this was a lesson for me,
Mm,
said to me when I went into a job, he said, what are you going to do in your first 90 days? And I said, oh, I'll change this, I'll do that, and all
mm,
the rest. He said, stop. He said, learn from everybody around you
yeah.
what you've done before, what their knowledge is. Take more time to take stock,
Mm,
And so, yeah, I think we need to improve our ability to learn from others in the industry,
mm,
and hone that, and to be honest, standardize, because all of that experimentation takes a long time in the railway. If
Mm,
we've got something that's good and good enough, let's get on with that because it can make a difference now.
yes. Yeah. I think tied into that, one of my favorite leadership styles, and one of the things which I think, having observed many, many leaders over many years, one of the key attributes to a successful leader is the ability to listen. So to learn from other people, do you know, to kind of really tune in to the experience, the knowledge, the passion that's around you in your team and beyond, and then be able to learn from that. So music to my ears. So
Yeah.
you'd be
And then move at pace. So
yes.
I have this little sticker that you might be able to see on the back of
The
my,
trouble is you think you have time. Yes. Yeah.
uh, and
Yeah.
that's another thing about bring some energy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We will feed off that energy, and we'll be amazed at what we
Yeah.
can do
Yeah.
if
Then
we.
and it makes us feel good because 'cause you've got that sense of achievement that we've ticked something off, we've done it.
Yeah,
Whereas there's a lot of massive, massive pieces of work that are going on. You can't achieve them overnight. They're going to take time. But within the big pieces of work, there are small things that are being achieved every day, aren't there? So to that point again, let's talk about things we've done, what's gone well, what we can learn from, move on to the next thing and do it even better.
yeah.
I have one more question before
Mm.
we close. You have been in the role now of chief exec for just over 6 months as we're recording this in May 26.
7 months, 9 days.
Oh, not that you're counting. There we go. Um, so I am wishing you a very, very long and continued successful career in this particular role. I'm excited about the fact that you're there, and I'm excited for you to be able to kind of have an impact on the transformation that's happening.
Yeah.
If we can cast ourselves forward in time to whatever whatever time frame that is, and that doesn't matter. My question is, when you look back, when you reflect on your time as chief exec of Network Rail and this really interesting period of time that we're in, what impact would you be happy to have had?
Wow. Well, I mean, let's keep it realistic because if you're not,
Yeah.
my impact uh, uh, will be quickly superseded by events and environment within a couple of years of whenever I finish doing a job in rail, right? So it's more like what carries on,
Mm,
what things might carry on as a result of things that I've done.
yes.
I think, first of all, I would say railways are multi-generational. You've got to recognize your role in that. The idea of legacy for me,
Mm,
bit self-serving. It's more about what have you done that can enable others to carry the torch.
yes.
And there are some things I'd really like us to do. One of my big focuses at the moment is on reliability because customers love that.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'll have to check my app to see if my train's running or has it been cancelled or is it
Mm,
delayed. And reliability gives a couple of things. First of all, if you've got reliable assets, whether that's infrastructure or the train, it's working.
mm,
It's safe. And so we think sometimes about our assets in terms of safety first, of course, safety first, but
yeah.
if you elevate that to reliability first, and this goes back to my aviation days,
Mm.
I, a jet engine not working in the sky is not a good thing.
No.
Just change the mindset.
Yeah.
What does reliability look like in a railway environment that's good? And then you come up with, well, that'll cost money and so on. Yeah, but
Mm,
think of how do we make sure that our assets are up and working? And you'll get train safety by design because the
yes.
assets are working the way they're intended. You will get passenger confidence because the railway is performing.
Mm,
If passengers are confident and trust in the railway, there are other factors like the price of the ticket and so on, but they will reward you by traveling more,
yes.
or more people will use it. So
Yeah.
my push is on making sure that we are really focused on providing excellent service to customers. And one of the ways to do that is through a really good focus on reliability. And that draws on some of my engineering background, my aviation experience. And I think that's something we can raise the bar for ourselves.
Yeah.
We're all very focused on delivering a high performing railway, but we could raise it up.
Yeah.
And if I've left that as people that they've got greater ambition for that, that would be
You'd be
wonderful.
happy with that.
I
I
would be.
agree. I agree. That is a great ambition, and I wish you all the very best of success with it. Jeremy, thank you so much. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I've really enjoyed having a peek behind the curtain in terms of who you are, where you've come from, what matters to you. There's so much come out in what you've shared with us that helps us kind of get a better understanding of you as a person. So thank you. And huge thanks as well for the really practical advice that you've given us in terms of how to look at your career differently, the things that might be important moving forward along visibility, along reflection, all those great things. I'm hugely grateful to you. Thank you so much. And as I've said a couple of times, and not wanting to over egg the pudding, I wish you every success in everything that you want to do in the industry. Thank
Yeah, I think the one thing we haven't said maybe is enjoy it.
you. Yes.
You spend
So important.
you
Yeah, yeah.
spend so much time at work, so much time thinking about work,
Yeah,
that make sure you're enjoying it.
absolutely. Yeah.
I'll come across to everybody. I'll help you in your career as well. So thanks,
Perfect.
Nina.
Thank you
Great.
so much. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Before I went into the recording of this Intuitive Insights podcast with Jeremy, I was absolutely determined that I didn't want a corporate and a scripted conversation. And I hope you agree with me that we achieved that. There was many, many leadership takeaways for me from that conversation. I'd love to hear what yours are, and be delighted if you would share those with me. My takeaways, I've got three. First and foremost, don't manage your career too tightly. I love the expression that Jeremy used, which was career serendipity. So his advice for people earlier on in their career and wherever you are on your career journey, leave room for serendipity, and also include in that how do you move around and not just up, which I thought was particularly insightful. My second takeaway is that the best leaders are learners first. This is a theme that ran throughout the conversation. Leadership isn't about having all the answers, it's about creating the conditions where the best ideas can surface, regardless of where those ideas come from. I particularly love that one. And the third one, culture and collaboration are now competitive advantages. I think we would all agree that there's work to be done in both of those areas, but it's encouraging to know that they're important to one of the most senior people in the UK rail industry. The line that stayed with me, I think, from the whole conversation was when I asked what impact Jeremy hopes to have as a chief exec of Network Rail leading into the formation of Great British Railways. And he didn't talk about legacy. He talked about enabling others to carry the torch. So creating the kind of environment where people believe that they have the confidence, they have the support, they have the knowledge, they have everything that they need in order to move us forward into whatever the new world looks like. I really did enjoy the conversation. Huge thanks to Jeremy for making the time and for his team to help me get room in his diary to make it happen. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll join me again for the next episode of the Intuitive Insights podcast, which will be with you next month. Take care.